Ah.
Queen at self-taping. All right. Picture? Okay. Hi, and welcome back to our series, Living with PTSD. I'm Dr. Judy Wesolowski, and this is my good friend, Gail Golden. So, Gail, let's say someone has PTSD, is doing all the things we've been talking about, going to therapy, taking magnesium, sleeping in a cold room, all the things we've been talking about, and they're still having trouble living with their PTSD. What can they do?
They may be barking up the wrong tree, and that's what happened with me. I said it earlier in the series, I do a big parade every year. And in 2007, when I did it, my boyfriend passed away the day before the parade. And in 2008, when I did it, my mom passed away a couple days before the parade. And I continued to do the parade in 2009, and then I couldn't sleep anymore. And then I started trying to get help from lots of different people, and we've talked about that earlier in the series, all different people, some of whom were very reputable, but it wasn't helping me. It took the therapist who I had known before, and now he had gone into therapy, after 8 years of me trying all kinds of other people, it took me talking to Michael, and after a bunch of sessions for him to say, I don't think this has anything to do with the parade, and I don't think this has anything to do with Brian passing away.
Wow.
I think this very much has to do with your mother and your father and early childhood experiences that were traumatic, that you might not even remember, except in kind of a very fuzzy way. And once we got there, that was what I had the PTSD from. And this other stuff, when my mom died, that triggered this dormant PTSD. Then I started to make progress. You can't fight a dragon if you can't see the dragon, if you don't know who he is or where he is or anything. You've got to know what it is you're trying to recover from in order to start to recover. And so you might think you've got PTSD from the thing that happened to you right before the symptoms began, but it might be that wasn't what gave you PTSD. That's triggering PTSD that you got a long time ago.
So, did you have PTSD before your boyfriend died?
I had PTSD, yes. The PTSD started when I was a little kid.
Okay. But it just became more prevalent after the experiences of the deaths?
It became more prevalent after I got over the shock of my mother dying.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Now you talk about finding people to help you.
Yes.
How do you do that?
Well, so sometimes a therapist can help you, with this in therapy. And the therapist I went to really helped me a lot with that. Sometimes you've got to be your own detective and look for clues. And those clues could even be the things that are triggering you. Why did I get so upset? And instead of being not liking that thing or avoiding that thing that upset you so much, if you hang on to that thing, wait a minute, I got upset about that for a reason, and it's a clue. And now I'm going to figure out why it upset me, why being the prevalent word. That can really help you a lot with living with your PTSD.
Well, what do you mean? Can you give me an example?
Yeah. So think to yourself, was there a story or a fairy tale or a TV show or movie or whatever when you were little, for example, that really upset you a lot? Not that just scared everybody like we all were afraid of the witch and the Wizard of Oz, but just gave you a feeling like you were, Janet Leigh in the shower in Psycho. I mean, scared you out of your mind. That kind of thing can help a lot. So I remembered that the fairy tale Bluebeard had that effect on me when I was a kid. It's a story about a psychopathic man who gets young women to do something really wrong, and then the young women are horribly punished for doing it. I certainly didn't understand at the time why that resonated with me so strongly and why it was just unbelievably horrific to me. But I understand now, understanding what the traumatic event was or events were that gave me the PTSD in the first place.
Wow.
Yeah.
Can you think about these things and not be triggered?
Not really. Just doing these videos last night, I had a stomach ache, I haven't been able to eat much today. The really good thing about PTSD triggers is they don't last forever. You know that. It's if you can remember that while you're in the middle of the fear or the panic or the anger or whatever, okay, I'm overwhelmed by this feeling, but it's going to go away after a little while. That's very helpful.
I do a meditation, and one thing I've learned is that feelings come and go, and you can't control them. They just appear, but they come and go.
Right.
And if you can actually watch them go, that's,
right,
where you want to be.
And you can get them to go by doing some of the things that we talked about before, by doing the trauma release exercise, by applying cold, take a cold bath, take a cold shower, all the different things we've been talking about, that can help a lot. Go for a run around the block. Mm-hmm. Right.
Now, we were talking about these triggers and the clues.
Mm-hmm.
Can you explain more about what triggers you?
So, I was doing the parade, mm-hmm. and I couldn't sleep. Mm-hmm. And I was watching TV, and there was a commercial on TV for the company that does the parade, but they don't do a lot more than the parade. Just an innocuous, nice commercial. And fear swept over me. Really? And that's when I thought, oh
no.
Because before that, I hadn't been sleeping for like a week, and I thought I had developed a flu or some kind of weird condition. But when that happened, I realized, no, I'm not sick. I got to stop doing that parade. It's triggering this in me. Right. Another example is I enjoy going to garage sales on mm-hmm. Saturdays in the summer. But what was I buying? I didn't really stop to think of it. I bought a chair that looked like a little chair from Mexico mm-hmm. that I had when I was 3 years old. I was buying little golden books that were the ones that I had read when I was a kid.
Yeah.
I bought a great big carousel horse, which reminds me of something that I had when I was 4 years old. So if I had stopped to think about it, I was surrounding myself with clues that I needed to focus on the time period when I was 3 and 4 years old. I thought I was just buying these things because they were mm-hmm. cute and nice and all that. I was telling myself something subconsciously. So look and see what you're doing.
Would writing it down and just looking around you and kind of making notes help?
Yeah, asking yourself why, telling your therapist, I picked up the weirdest thing,
Yeah.
I just wanted it so badly. I saw it on eBay. It was a red plaid umbrella. It was more than I wanted to spend, but there's something in me that would just like, yes, I've got to get this. Work with it.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah.
It may not just be a whim. There may be a reason for it that can help you.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
What else can be a clue?
I find that films, old movies, can be a clue. There are some that scare me. Mm-hmm. So one is asking yourself why and what this has to do with the whole situation. And another thing you can do is kind of use cognitive behavioral psychotherapy on yourself. Just because I got kicked out of the sessions with the cognitive behavioral psychotherapist because he said I was having an existential life crisis doesn't mean I have to give up on cognitive behavioral psychotherapy. And so you can kind of desensitize yourself from the fear. In other words, there's a scene, a climactic scene in Night of the Hunter where Robert Mitchum sneaks into the house to hurt the children.
No.
That's terrifying to me. Not just, I'm watching a fun, old, scary movie, but really terrifying. So I put that, found it on YouTube and had it on my screen and just watched it like 20 times till it didn't scare me anymore. Yeah.
And that worked?
Yes, it did.
Nice.
Yeah. Now, I still have the book in the car about the other thing, but,
That's okay. That's okay.
You do what you can. Right.
Anything else people should look at or pay attention to?
Pay attention to your own dreams, especially dreams that have some kind of image in it that's just the weirdest thing. this is, again, this part of the series is for people who know they have PTSD, but nothing is helping them get better. It might be that what you think gave you the PTSD isn't the initial traumatic event that you need to be facing. To figure out what that is, if you pay attention to your dreams. So I dreamt one night when I was in therapy with this really good therapist about a glass jar, and inside it was a cactus, and it was a white furry cactus in this jar on a table. And I woke up and thought, well, that was a very strange image, really strange. And I spent like 5 hours on the computer just working with that. What does that remind me of? And oh boy, that's where I came to some realizations that I never thought I would come to and that I didn't want to come to. But I worked it out. So, who's got white fur? What does a cactus do? What is this thing with the bell jar? Bell jar on a table, that means anybody can see it,
right?
But nobody's touched it. It's been right out there in plain sight for a long time.
Wow.
Wow. Yeah.
That's amazing.
It is amazing. And you can be surprised. The good therapist, one of the first things he asked me was, do you have any new phobias now? And I did. And I had developed a phobia to the color blue, which I still have to this day, even though blue is a lovely color. In fact, it was always my favorite color. But when the symptoms started after the parade, I didn't want to be anywhere blue anymore. But I've come to realize that that the blue has to do with the lake in the sky by that cottage where there was a lot of problems, and Bluebeard, and there's a reason for new phobias that you develop when you start getting PTSD symptoms.
So using all your detective work, you were able to put the pieces together and it formed a bigger picture.
Yes, it did, and so then I know what the dragon is.
Nice.
Yeah,
nice.
It is nice. Again, it doesn't cure it, but it sure helps you live with it.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Well, that is our program, Living with PTSD. Thank you very much for joining us. And Gail, I really want to thank you, because when we were talking about this before, I wasn't exactly sure, because with PTSD, I understand why you were a little bit nervous and stuff beforehand, but you have really come through, and I appreciate it.
Thank
you.
you.
You've done an excellent job.
Thank you so much. Thank you for your interest in this. Thank you for doing all the tech work.
Yes.
On this, Dr. Judy, she's everything. She's the expert. She's the tech crew.
The tech crew.
Really appreciate it, and I do hope that this helps people.
Thank you. Take care. Perfect.
There you go.
Oh, yeah.
Wow.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
Let's make sure. Yay. Still